You on the pod with Claire. We gon' talk about our problems and thoughts and share ways we can just pause and more often care. And if you lost and scared, baby, pull up a chair.
Kindness, caring, loving is the mission. As long as we all stick together, we can make a difference. I'm down with everybody, so I'm paying it forward. Only positivity, so I know you enjoying it.
Know the podcast about to start soon. Hope you like pop culture, 90s cartoons. Down with the locals like who know better. Round like Slodoko and Boo Boo Records. Yeah, know the podcast about to start soon. Grab your wood stocks and you bang the drum roll. Here we go, get ready to laugh. Put your headphones on, kick back and relax.
Hi friends, I'm so delighted to introduce Amy to you. She is the creator of the wonderful app Daily Haloha. I use it every evening before I go to bed pretty much, and then I also use Calm app to wind down my day on a positive note. So putting these podcast interviews out during pandemic have been giving me life, and I really hope that listening to them have been giving you life too. Please enjoy our episode with the delightful, lovely Amy.
Hi friends! Today's episode is brought to you by Jonathan at Beller Design Build. They're a design build firm specializing in both architecture and construction of your project. Architectural services include 3D computer modeling to help visualize spaces. They also use principles of solar architecture to help create energy-efficient homes, which I love. I myself have been a personal recipient of Jonathan and his family's kindness. When our youngest daughter was born, they brought us the most amazing home-cooked tri-tip dinner, and I'll never forget how special they made that night for us. I highly recommend Jonathan and his company. So thank you so much, Jonathan, for sponsoring today's episode, and enjoy the show, guys.
Hi guys, hi fans of kindness. I'm here today with my friend Amy. She has created a really neat app. It's called Haloha, and she believes that technology can be a humanizing force connecting us. Hey, good to see you.
Hi Claire, great to see you too. Hello to everyone.
Hi, can you please talk about this wonderful app and your spark for the reason for starting it and the spirit of it?
Sure. I love talking about the app. So the full name of the app is Daily Haloha, and the purpose of the app is really big. It's to rekindle a sense of shared humanity and empathy. But the app itself is actually quite a simple and hopefully delightful, uplifting daily experience of simultaneous reflection and sharing. So I'll briefly tell you how it works, and I'll tell you how I arrived at this app of mine. I pose a single daily question to the world. It's thought-provoking, it's accessible, it's fill in the blank, and kind of relevant for all of us to reflect on and answer. So everyone takes a minute, reflects on the question, fills it out, and once you've completed your thought, you send it off. And it gets delivered randomly and anonymously to one other person in the Haloha-verse, which is what I call our community. And then you instantly get one back from someone else in the world. And that is meant to be the kind of a delightful moment of reciprocity and exchange. It's a little bit like opening a fortune cookie and, where did this come from and what did I get back? And you have a minute to reflect and read the response that you get back. And you give it a little reaction sticker to acknowledge to the person that they were heard, that it landed with a real person somewhere on the planet. And then you go to the Haloha wall, where all day long we collect all the responses from around the world. So, you've had this moment to reflect on for yourself. You've had this, moment of reciprocity. And now you can open up your view to get perspective from how everybody has reflected on that question and link that back to your own moment of reflection. So the whole process from beginning to end is just a simple 2 minutes, but we do hope it's an uplifting, oasis in your day. And I think it's important to note that we've got really deeply embedded principles behind the app. And those are that it's anonymous. Everybody's thoughts are only identified by the location that they sent them from. And because it's anonymous, you can express yourself very authentically and show up as you really are, even if that is vulnerable on certain, at certain times and on certain days. And not only is it anonymous, but it's free of judgment. There's no opportunity to challenge, to debate. It's just an opportunity to really open-heartedly and without bias or filters hear from other people. And lastly, there's no status, there's no popularity contest, there's no social validation loops. So you can really be authentic and be unconcerned with whether your thought is how it's going to land, because it's really for you to express yourself authentically and hear from others in the same spirit. So that is our daily Haloha.
Yeah, one of the first questions I got, it was asking me about my fears, and I typed in my answer and I hit send, and some person got it, and then I got one, and I think it was from UK, and I was curious, I wonder if it's a man or woman writing it, and I put my fear, and I thought my fear was really scary, and then they started popping up the other people's responses, and I was like, some people have my fear too, and oh my gosh, some people's fears are scarier than my fear. I wonder if they've experienced that. So it was really special, and there's nothing like it on my phone. It's just really special.
Well, I'm so glad to hear you say that. And just to your point, we do get a lot of feedback, and often people tell us it is a way to not feel so alone, right? You are often seeing notes and thoughts just like yours, and it puts your own experience in perspective, and it creates these little nodes of connection.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your partner that's featured on your website, what he's like and how you guys got to know each other?
Sure. So his name is Greg. He's a wonderful person. I'm glad you asked me about him. We met cute. We met through our daughters. Our daughters were actually best friends and growing up. So I've known Greg and his family for quite a while. And he's a terrific partner. He's a real enthusiast. He brings a lot of passion and innovation, to everything he does. And it's really been, quite a joy to work with him, and just this special bond we have because we're so fond, of course, of our daughters, but also each other's families. It's really delightful to work together.
Nice. So was the app your idea, and did he support you in certain ways, or how did it? I haven't created an app. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it started off being my idea. I had a really unique experience that was the inspiration behind the app. And I'll tell you about that, and then I'll tell you how Greg came to become my partner. So our app is really not inspired by other apps. In some ways, I think about it as an app that sits at the crossroads of a wellness tool app and a social media app. It's kind of like social wellness. But it's not inspired by apps at all, actually. It was inspired by participatory art projects, not in the digital world, but in the physical world. I had this particular experience with a Post-it wall project that was in the subway station in Union Square in New York City. And at its culmination, it was 50,000 Post-it notes, which it's hard. If you Google subway therapy, you'll see it because it's such a visual experience. But I was commuting into and out of that subway station at the time the project happened. So I witnessed it twice a day, every day for months. And I saw how transformative it was for people that passed by and paused and took note of it and reflected and made a contribution, and then did feel this embraced by the greater whole. And I saw this day after day and how it changed from a moment of us versus them to we're all in this together. And I thought, how do we bottle this up in a way that people all over the world can experience this every day? Because I felt like this was such a simple but powerful way to connect anonymous strangers in a moment of sharing and empathy. So I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I thought it went right to the core of what I care about most and what I value most, which is, empathy and belonging, and that we all matter, and all our voices should be heard, and we all deserve to be seen as our true selves. I mean, that is so deeply embedded in my personal value system that I saw this thing and I just, I couldn't get it. I was obsessed with how do I, recreate this experience. So Greg and I were working on a project together. We were both on the board of our local continuing education center. And we were working on a project, meeting, a couple times a week to do a strategic plan. And one day I just blurted this idea. I couldn't contain it any longer. And it just seemed relevant to what we were talking about. So I blurted it, and I was really afraid of what reaction I might get. It was like a half-baked idea at the time, and he loved it. And it was like the sun rose in that moment. And and every time we met to talk about this project we were on, instead we talked about what is now Daily Haloha. So we worked on it for months, kind of like, at our kitchen tables on the sly. And then at some point I said, Greg, do you want to be my partner? Let's do this thing. And it's 2.5 years later and we did this thing. Alive in the world.
Awesome. I like how you phrased it, because I have a similar mission. You said that you wanted to try and work on the problem of us versus them. And I feel like that is just so well put. And I don't know how exactly I'm going to do this, but this podcast, getting this conversation going and talking to kindness advocates like you is really exciting and inspiring for me. So thank you. I wanted to talk about your spirit in the workplace, because I was looking at your LinkedIn and so many people had said that you were a positive, engaging, warm energy, and it was like repeated again and again. And I was wondering if you had tips or you wanted to speak about how to be a positive and warm energy in the workplace.
Wow. Well, thank you for surfacing those comments. That makes me feel pretty warm. I guess I haven't seen them in a while because I've been working very independently of late. But my career, I've had decades of business experience, and my career started in management consulting, and I've also spent lots of time in financial services, both at very big companies like Bain & Company and American Express, and smaller companies like Rush Card, where I became president. So I've been really fortunate to be trained by excellent leaders and have the opportunity to hone my own, leadership skills by managing increasingly large staffs. And I've learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, but I think that, what matters most is how I come to the work of leadership, which is, I do try to bring my whole self to work and show up as my authentic self. And I just care a lot about people. When we spend most of our days at work, we spend so much time with our work colleagues, more than our families often, or people that we have in other aspects of our life. So those relationships are really meaningful. So I just care. And aside from that, I'm insanely curious. I'm really curious about people, what motivates them. You talked about fears, what they're afraid of, what they dream of for themselves, the work they want to do in the world, what they hope for their families. I just care about those things. So I really try to get to know people, not just, what you see on the surface at work, but what lies beneath, because that matters so much. And I try to create environments and work for people where they have the opportunity to be their best selves. And I think that if you expect the best of people, they rise to your expectations. And the opposite, sadly, is true. But if we make space for people to show up and do their best work as their most authentic selves, and they feel seen and understood and appreciated, they'll shine. And, as a leader, the more senior you get, the less consequential you are. In some ways, the work is really done, where the rubber meets the road, where people are actually having interactions with customers, where ideas are brought to life and implemented and executed. And, as a leader, you're providing vision and guidance, but what you're really doing is creating other, environments for other people to do their best work. So anyway, that's what I learned through my years of leadership that I, try to bring to my work environments.
Lovely. So who were your kindness role models growing up, or who are your role models right now?
Well, growing up, I have to say my parents. Both my parents modeled, really kind, altruistic, generous behavior. I'm one of four, so we all benefited from seeing that. And what I saw from my parents is I saw them choose compassion over consumption, always. And when they made decisions and choices, it was really clear what their value system was and is. And I also saw them choosing doing over dogma, which is another value that I hold. I believe in it, not just blindly following dogma or just spouting off what you believe to be true, but really putting your money where your mouth is, making sure that your actions are in sync with what you're saying, like, show, don't tell, that kind of thing. And they, always modeled that for me. So I feel really lucky, and I feel really lucky that they're both still very important, active parts of my life. But this project of Daily Haloha has brought into my orbit even more role models. And I feel so fortunate to have embarked on this project for so many reasons, but one of them is how much it's enriched me personally. So, I've learned a ton, but I've also sought out role models and mentors and examples of other people doing these, good works, well-intentioned, heart-centered work in the world. And my paths have crossed with people doing all kinds of projects in their little chosen corners of the world, how they're trying to make a difference. And it's so inspiring. In fact, I've been able to meet several of these folks and engage in their projects and have dialogue and debate about, how we amplify and support the work that we're all doing together. So my role models have just multiplied over the years.
Yeah, I read an article that you wrote it was on medium.com about how you've tried to tackle the problem of people being disconnected from each other and being alone. And in the process, you've fallen in love with all these other change agents and thought leaders. And so I'm totally going to link that article in the show notes because I'd like our listeners to read those articles. Is there a special act of kindness that you'd like to share with us, something that you did or was done for you or that you witnessed?
Oh boy, I feel so fortunate. I think I've witnessed many, and it's the kind of thing too that once you kind of tune into the kindness frequency, I think you also notice them more, right? I think it's just an awareness that, that saying, like, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If you're tuned into kindness, you see little acts of kindness everywhere. When I think about it, one that I've experienced recently is receiving a handwritten note in the mail, which in itself is like such a rare experience these days that, you really sit up and take notice when you see someone's personal handwriting. It feels, kind of amazing. But in this case, it was actually a thank you note to me from a friend whose father had recently passed away, thanking me for making a Shiva call and going by their house and expressing my condolences to the family. And why this thank you note really struck me is that it, first of all, was quite lengthy and detailed and personal. And I think we probably only chatted for 5 minutes at the Shiva. The house was bursting with well-wishers and people coming by, friends and family. There must have been 100 people there. So I'm imagining this friend of mine writing 100 of these notes, if not more, and expressing her gratitude for me just showing up for her. And first of all, I thought of what a generous act it was for her, to write all these notes. But it also got me thinking about the power of showing up for people and how important it was for her to have all these people show up at a time where she was grieving and needing, support. So it was just this sort of cycle of, showing up, supporting a friend, her in return, expressing gratitude for that, and how that made me feel, which kind of closed that whole cycle. And it was just such a small but really powerful thing.
This, excuse me, wasn't in my list of questions I wanted to ask you, but you talking about your friend being devastated in her state of loss and needing support, I wanted to ask you, is there a time in your life that you've been down in the dumps and really low and really needing someone that either some people didn't know and weren't there for you or that they were there for you? I feel like so many people that are on a mission to make the world a kind and loving place have been depressed or anxious or struggling or hurting. So is that you too, or?
Yeah, well, I've had my share. I think anybody who's around for a while is going to have their share of ups and downs. And certainly I've had my share of unexpected and temporarily devastating experiences. And I'm, willing and happy to share one with you and your listeners because maybe it's helpful. So my marriage split up when I had, when my kids, I have 3 children, when they were quite young. And it was crushing. It was really devastating. It was unexpected. So I think most people expect their marriages to last. No one expects their marriage to split up, but it was particularly unexpected. And my kids were little, and I, needed to get through every day and keep things as normal as possible and work and run my household and all the rest. So I was doing that. And of course, I was fortunate that my friends and family were there to, to support me. But, over time, everybody has to return to their own lives. And so everybody returned to their own lives, and mine was still left with a huge hole in it. It's not something that I, recovered from right away. And during the course of this, I had a friend, it's really a friend of a friend. She was an acquaintance of mine, someone I would exchange pleasantries with, but not an intimate friend. And in the midst of this, she called me up one day and said, "Can I come over with my kids and bring dinner?" And I knew she was doing that because she knew I was struggling. And I said yes. And it was, again, startling. This is not an intimate friend. So she comes over with like a big casserole full of pot roast and potatoes and carrots. I had 3 kids. She had 4 kids. The 2 of us had dinner. She had her husband at home, but she left him to come have dinner with me and my kids and her kids. And, the chaos of 7 little kids around the table and homemade pot roast, it's exactly what I needed. And the fact that she did this when I was feeling so alone with my pain made me feel so seen in that moment. And this is decades ago. And I'm not even in touch with her. And I will never forget this kindness. And it's really interesting that you ask about this because, as I mentioned in my app, I ask a fill in the blank question every day. And a couple months ago, I asked the question, "I'll never forget a kindness that was shown to me when blank." And I read every response every day.
Oh,
Yeah, we can talk more about that. But I read that Haloha wall that day, and I was really struck by the little story bites that were offered there. And what struck me is that the kindnesses that people talked about were when they were at their lowest. Um, People had medical crises or the death of a parent or all the different things that happen. I mean, it was a range of little kindnesses to big kindnesses, but it was always against a backdrop of deep need. And it just was so clear that the kindnesses that mean so much are when we're at our most fragile and our most vulnerable. And when people extend themselves to us in those moments, it's unforgettable.
yeah. I feel like a little bit torn right now because I am not really ready to share my um, most challenging personal stories, and I didn't ever want to be like a gotcha journalist with a guest, like gotcha. But I really appreciate you sharing that with me and with us. Um, but yeah, something that I can talk about is when my mom was in the ICU, I had people help me out, but it was especially surprising to me when it was people that I'd never hung out with before that they would ask if they could come and bring sandwiches for my dad and my girls and I, or something like that. So if anyone in your sphere is going through something, food is love. So maybe that would be a good tip to if you want to show some love to someone. Um, you said that you read every response. So is that like just something that you wanted to do? Is it doable or is it crazy?
That's a great question. It's doable right now. I have big plans for this little app, so it will probably reach a point where I can't read them all every day. It would take up too much time. Um, but we just launched like very end of May, like 4 months ago, and it's still a couple hundred a day, so I can get my head around it. But it's not a chore. I'm inspired, I'm uplifted, I'm delighted, I'm amused, I'm moved. Every question is a little bit different. Sometimes they invite creativity and they're really amusing. Sometimes they write like real heartfelt expressions of struggles that move me. And sometimes, it's sort of the world problem solving for each other and I'm inspired. But it's just like a little snapshot of humanity, on the wall every day. And I do read it, and I do it because I'm personally enriched by it. But I'm also trying to understand just how the app is working for people, and I'm curious about how people are showing up and how free they feel, to express themselves, um, and what kind of impact they're having on one another by contributing to this like reality that we're co-creating every day on the wall. So what I've come to understand by immersing myself in that every day is that people are benefiting from being served up a moment of mindful reflection as they ponder our daily question. And when they answer the question, they're answering for themselves. It's like kind of answering a journal prompt, but they're also answering with an awareness that this is going into a collective experience. So I see people offering words of wisdom for others. Often
Yeah.
we talk to ourselves in the way that we also want to like lift our own spirits, but in so doing, lift the people around us. And I see that, in the app. And you probably saw it in the app too, that we offer a set of reaction stickers to give to other people's halohas or their responses. And I also look at which ones people are using. And one of them just says sending a hug. And it's used a lot. So I see people using all of them, but also taking that moment to send acknowledgement to others. So yes, I love them all. And when it gets too big, I'm going to have to think of other ways to sort of capture the insights that are, displayed there, so that I can feed them back to the community. And once it gets too big for me to do it on my own.
Mhm. Today's prompt was, what would you bring to a desert island? What your 3 items? And so I thought, ooh, I've got really good answers. Here are mine. And then someone wrote something about a water purifier, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was better than mine. I can't believe I didn't get that. And then some of them were like their favorite albums or books, and I was like, oh, I like you. I love sending hugs to people. What are your favorite apps on your phone? Do you have things that are not your basic apps that not many people would have? I feel like looking at my phone, I have something called Touch Note, and it's like you touch one of your photos and shoot off a postcard, because my folks don't have internet or anything, so I like sending them snail mail.
Oh, I love that. I'll have to check that one out.
And my grandparents too. They'd get little pictures of my girls.
Aw.
Yeah, I don't have many apps on my phone, but Daily Haloha. It's like not something that you regret doing once you go to it, because you can go to other social media sites and being like, oh, that feels yucky or whatever. But this won't do that to you. It'll be a feel good, energizing experience.
Well, it's certainly a good question that you raise, because, I'm a big believer in technology as a tool for all sorts of good things, productivity, connection, all these things. But I'm also really challenged by technology, and I have to really consciously work against being digitally overwhelmed and digitally distracted. And especially now that I have a tech startup, I feel like I'm on my computer and my phone more than ever before. And I have to be increasingly vigilant and mindful about my attention, right? Because a lot of these apps are really geared to capturing your attention and extracting value from your attention. So there's a lot of great apps out there, and there's those that I know are really detrimental to my well-being. And so I try to really be mindful about my digital diet. So social media in particular, I have a lot of mixed feelings about. And we've tried to do something very different with our app than social media. And, I hope that the difference is really clear, that we're not extracting your attention. We're not hooking people and addicting them to these social validation feedback loops, or selling your attention to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
We're really trying to do something quite different, where it's truly a couple minutes a day. It's a daily ritual that makes you feel good, not like, oh my God, I just lost an hour down that rabbit hole. What did I possibly do down there? So it's challenging. But what I'll say about the apps on my phone is I've really come to appreciate some meditation apps. Insight Timer is my current favorite, and I'm trying to work like mindfulness into my life in a more systematic and consistent way, because I feel that I'm better off when I do it. So I use the apps to help me actually get off my phone in some ways, by meditating more consistently.
I feel like you have a gift, and that you're really good with people, and I feel like the people I've been meeting in the past few months that have got that gift, it's they're meditating, and they're taking the time, and I feel like it shows. So as we wrap things up, I'm taking a look at my notes, and I just wrote the word human, because on your bio you have your job title, and you wrote human, and I was like, oh, you're not all about your ego and this is who I am. You're like, I'm human, I'm you. We're all one. So do you want to talk about that word human?
Yeah, I love that word human, right? There's something about it. I love even saying it. Human, humane. I put that there. I think I have it after my title, right? On my web page. My title is CEO and co-founder, and that's important information to convey on the website. But I put human because I guess a couple reasons. One is our app is meant to remind us about what we share as humans. And we're all human. We all share that. And, we need labels to make sense of the world, right? I mean, I have CEO and co-founder on there because it matters. Someone needs to, know who's running this thing and put a name and a face with the app. And we need labels to make sense of the world, which is just so complex, right? It helps us as we try to systematize the world. Labels are helpful as we try to figure out where we fit in to the world. Who's my tribe? Who do I affiliate with? And so there's a place for that. But we live in these really divisive, polarizing times where I think labels can also be really dehumanizing, right? Where we're put in boxes that we don't want to be in. We put other people in boxes and see them in one-dimensional ways. We think we know everything about them because of the label we slap on them. We make assumptions about what someone's all about because of some label or title or box that we've assigned them to. So as useful as they can be, and it's great to have a strong sense of your identity, it's also really important to remember that what connects us as humans is bigger than what divides us as citizens or separates us in our boxes. So that's why I put human there. It's just a reminder that I'm a lot of things. I'm female, I'm a mother, I've got my business titles, I've got my religion and my political affiliation and all the rest that we all have. But above all, I'm human. And because of that, I have fears and worries and dreams and hopes and regrets and all those things that put us all in the same box with the label human on it.
Oh, I love you. Thank you so much. I love I love your style. I love your spirit. I just want to say thank you for taking the steps to create this and bring your idea to fruition and not just keeping it inside of your head. And now we all get to benefit from your work.
Oh, well, you are so welcome. It's been like a great joy of my life to have the opportunity and the honor of working on this and putting something out in the world. It's like it's really been like having a child. I mean, it's my fourth child. Aside from my own physical children, nothing else has captured my imagination and my hopes the way this app has, with the intention that I have. So I invite you to keep using it. I invite your listeners. I want the world to use it and help me make it better and better and better. So I am very open to feedback, suggestions, partnership ideas, support. Any and all of it is most welcome.
Yeah, I could see one of these little books of happiness that it's actually a hardcover copybook, like to enjoy, like The Humans of New York or something special like that. But I love the idea of partnerships, so I am so excited to see what comes in the next year and two. I know you're going to grow and touch a lot of people, and I'm excited and looking forward to seeing it. I want to say the Instagram has you guys. It's just what it is, Daily Haloha.
Yep, that's our Instagram.
And then there's the app. And I will put a link to those in the show notes.
Terrific. And if you reach out to me either on our webpage, which is dailyhaloha.com, the app itself, which has a place to reach out, or Instagram, all roads lead to me. So any suggestions, comments, questions that you pose in any of our channels will go directly into my inbox. And I read every single one.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Claire. Thanks to all your listeners. Have a great day.
You too.
Hi, guys. So while I was wondering how to wrap up the show, I thought I would pull up some examples of daily Haloha prompts that I've gotten that I really liked. When I get ones that I really like, I snap little screenshots of them. So this one said, I'd like to blink for a day so I could blink. And the person wrote to me, I'd like to be Dr. Dolittle for a day so I could listen and communicate to animals. It would be a dream come true. That message came from a special person in the Netherlands. This one said, one thing I love about blank is blank. So you could write about anything. This person wrote, one thing I love about my dog is that she's always so happy to see me with little heart smiley emoji. And that came from Mexico. This one said, one thing I love about blank is blank. One thing I love about life is time heals most things. From Orlando, Florida. And this one said, one thing I love about the world today is the news pages entirely dedicated to good news. There's so much good all around us to see. From Norway. Me too, sister or brother. So as you can see, this app is really neat, and some really cool things can come out of it, and all of them positive. I wanted to share that with you, and I hope that you'll sign up for your daily Haloha. And if you could use some more positivity in your life, I would recommend going to sign up for my newsletter at clairekindness.com. I try my best to send positive vibes your way, and I would love to see some of you over at Claire Kindness on Instagram and Facebook. Have a lovely day. I look forward to the next time I get to talk to you. Ta-ta.